Hello guys, today I'm going to be going over a more in-depth review of my budgeting template. This is for those who have already done their initial setup and want to optimize for their needs and really take advantage of the power of this model to look at different scenarios and whatever they may deem for their financial future. Let's get right into it. I'm going to start off here on the Start Here screen. First off, we're going to go over our retirement projected annual returns. I'm using a separate software this time, different from your tutorial video, so you guys should be able to see this drop down this time. I realized after recording that last time, all these drop down and right click menus were not showing up, so hopefully this is an improvement. But last time I showed you how to set it up for 7%. And I talked about how you can manually edit each of these accounts here, but I didn't really talk too much about what this is for. And what this does is it changes every account to be at that 7%, every account to be at 5%, and then 10% subsequently. So if you want to see how your future financials would be if you had 5% returns for the entirety of your professional career, then that has already been updated to this, right? So that's what we're seeing here. That used to be $680,000. Now it's $548,000 because you're receiving less returns per year. And what this does is it really shows to the user exactly how powerful a couple percent of interest is, right? So for our 7%, you're getting 45,000 or 16,000 a month inflation adjusted with your 4% withdrawals. And if you only go down 2% in returns for your career, that takes away a sizable portion of your monthly livable expenses. And then on the flip side of that, if we go up to 10%, then look at that, that's a huge jump. So what that shows you and gives you the ability to see is just how powerful interest compounding and returns compounding are. And that gives you the perspective of how important it is to try to maximize and diversify your portfolio for your future returns. So that right there, that's how you use this drop down, and that's how you look at that. If you wanted to, you could even use this sandbox and be like 5%, 7%, 10%, and you can even just do a copy paste thing here, starting off at 5. Copy, and like I said with before, doing the paste of 1, 2, 3, so you're just getting the numbers and not the format. Same thing for 7%. It's giving me an error. Same thing here. And then lastly, we do our 10%. Again, this is just an example. You don't have to do this. This is your own template, but if you felt so inclined, you can really see, hey, these are the difference. These are the different numbers that I could receive in the future. And then you could even do like, hey, what's that minus that? Oh, from 7% to 5%, that makes a difference of $3,500 a month. That's a big difference. So it's really up to you guys how you want to use this sandbox region, but that's why it's there. Take that back to 7%. Like I said in the last video, 7% is kind of like your expected average for most people if they do a good job with their portfolios. 5% is kind of like a conservative number, and 10% is like an optimistic lookout. All right, the next thing I'm going to go over after this projected returns is your brokerage savings, and we're going to use something called GoalSeek. And for those of you who are good and used to using Excel, power users, this is something that you guys are familiar with. For those of you who are not used to using Excel, then this could be something that you might want to be interested in using more often. It's pretty easy to use, but it just takes having the knowledge that it exists in the first place. So let's say that our retirement outlook is telling me that I can live off of $16,000 a month in today's money. And let's say I want to be able to live off of $20,000 a month or whatever. I want to really have a luxurious retirement. How do we go about seeing how much we would have to invest in our brokerage account to achieve that? Because we know that our Roth has a maximum annual contribution, same with our civilian 401k and our TSP, but your brokerage, you have no cap. You can put as much money in as you have available to you to deposit. So first off, when we set this up, I'm going to actually make this yearly deposit for after the Army equal the same yearly deposit as present. I'll kind of go over that, even though right now it says that it's reducing our monthly numbers. We're going to fix that. So right now, all you have to do is click this cell, press the equal sign, and then click yearly deposit while serving, cell C24, enter. And that means that whatever this cell is, it will duplicate that. And so now what I want to do is make this monthly expenses allotted to $20,000. We're going to figure out just how much we have to put in. So we're going to go over to data. We're going to go to what if analysis and GoalSeek. So what this is going to do is it's very simple. Set cell. So it should be on 023, this monthly expense number. And we're going to set it to 20,000, just like we said. And then by changing cell, and we're going to go all the way back to the start here button and change our brokerage savings. And we're going to put that in, and we're going to see, oh wow, we actually have to deposit $22,000 a year into this brokerage account in order to reach that goal. And you can see that you have to save $1,800 a month on your brokerage savings to achieve that. So you look at that and you're like, oh, well, maybe that's not achievable. Maybe for my current finances, I can't afford that. So let's change that again. Let's say maybe GoalSeek set value to 17,000, which is a little bit less than 1,000 more than it already was by changing the same cell number. There it is, $9,000 a year. And you can see in your budget that you still have some left over if you stick to what your budget is. Now, you probably added additional expenses for yourself, maybe some subscriptions or additional things. So maybe you don't have leftover, or maybe you're under a different pay. That's okay. But that's just an example for you. You want to look at what you have and what you're projected for, and you want a goal. And you're going to give yourself the ability to find that solution through the goal seek function. The next thing that we're going to go over is we're going to do a hypothetical situation for a career starter loan. If you are a freshly commissioned officer and you have a USAA bank account, you are entitled to take out a USAA starter loan. It is $25,000 at a 2.99% APR. And so we're going to go through what that looks like in this situation for a fresh officer. And so what you can do is, even if you're not in this situation, any loan you take out, you can kind of project what that money is going to do for you, especially if you're putting it right into the market. So let's say that we're going to go over to Retirement Outlook. Let's say that you take out a $25,000 loan for 2.99% APR, and you're fresh out of college, you don't currently have any brokerage savings, and you put in $25,000 into that account. What does that do for you? Well, how does that affect your final brokerage savings? So as you can see from before and after, it affects your total by about $500,000, which is a huge jump because putting money in early, a lot of money in early, helps a lot with compound returns. But obviously this money isn't free. We need to put it into our budget. So we can say loan payment. And I know from personal experience that the loan payment for this would be about $425 a month. And you can say, okay, well, I still have $222 a month left over of cash savings. And maybe this wouldn't be advisable if you currently have zero cash savings because your goal is to save up to these 3 to 6 month living expenses. But let's say you already have $10,000, then you're really only 3 months out of your 3 month target and 51 months out of your 6 month target. But this isn't really going to be accurate because before this happens, you're going to be getting pay increases and you're going to have more money left over than before. So really, it's just up to you to look at it in the lens of your personal finances and what you want to do. But obviously, this money up front has a huge cascading effect down the line of your total value in your account by the time retirement comes around. Next, we're going to go back to the Start Here page. I know I'm jumping around a bit, but for this, it's necessary. And we're going to do the classic, you buy a coffee every morning at Starbucks, and how much does that set you back for your retirement? So let's say our Starbucks coffee is $5. Sorry, that's not the right format. $5, and we get it every day. So you get it 5 times a week for 52. There are 52 weeks in the year. So you're going to do equals 5 times 5 times 52. And you're going to realize, even though it's only $5 a day, you're spending $1,300 a year on these Starbucks coffees. And you think to yourself, how much money could I be throwing away if I just invested this instead of buying coffee every morning? It's a lot cheaper to make your own coffee, obviously. So we're going to say, let's take all this money and let's put it into our brokerage savings. So obviously 5,000 plus 1,300 is 6,300, but If you wanted to, if you had a more complicated number for whatever reason, you can just do equal sign 5,000 plus this 1,300 number. It'll automatically add it up for you. And then you can go through in your retirement outlook and you can see, you can look at it what it was before, but it was about 1.3 million. Now it's 1.6 million. So just because you decided to not have a coffee every morning and you decided to make coffee at home, you now have an extra $300,000 at retirement, which is a huge bump. But that is up to your personal financial decisions, what you want to do with that. Lastly, we are going to go through the goal seek function again, just for another exercise. So let's say you want to reach a certain spending goal of cash savings per month, and you want to use your brokerage savings as kind of like the limiter for that. Let's get rid of this because that's not supposed to be there. So let's say you want to have $500 a month of cash savings put away, which we're obviously very close to, but let's say you're not, and you want to use your brokerage savings as a way to kind of get to that. So it's the same exact idea. Click on your O11 total leftover, total cash savings, go to data, what if analysis, goal seek. You're going to change this value to 500 or any other savings goal that you want to reach. And you're going to do it by changing your brokerage savings. And you're going to see that now you're at total leftover of $500 and you're saving $564 a month for brokerage. And that's because you're putting in $6,700 a year into that brokerage savings. And you can also see that it changes your total future value to $1.7 million in this case. So this is really just another good way of reaching your budgeting goals and setting yourself up for future success of like, hey, how much do I actually have to save to achieve this? And it tells you right there, simple use of the what if analysis and goal seek function in Excel. So yeah, that's it for today of certain features of this template that we're going to go over. Obviously, there are more things that you can figure out to do with either goal seek or just scenario outlook for future finances. And really, it's just a great template for anyone in the military, National Guard, active duty, reserves, to look at their finances. I am going to do a video that is specifically for National Guard and reserves because I can see the possibility of them having some questions since they have to fill out certain things differently. But for today, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any additional questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. I will do my best to respond. Thank you guys for watching.